Before I start reading my poems, I wanted to read a little poem by someone else. Eric's new book, and it's for both Eric and Ann, whom I've known for a long time, that I'm reading this. True beauty. She's looking in the mirror in a way that has nothing to do with me. There is a self, whether of the past or this moment, that draws her to look. Who does she see? Is it wife or mother, or lover of some yet unfound follower? When I stand before the same mirror, I see an aging man with good color, with a patch of hair, resolved to stay, all original teeth, albeit sans luster. A man my age need only be well groomed. She, though, must find her beauty, which I find every day, saying to her, I do. Still, she needs the mirror's view. It's a really sweet poem. I love it. This next poem is a Eugene poem that goes way back. To when I was in graduate school here, and oops, I can't find the right page. And also married for the first time, and going to school and thinking about cooking, making dinners and stuff like that, you know, and trying to get it all together. And the poem is My First Butcher, Bob Superette, Eugene, Oregon, 1961. Dressed in white like a surgeon, he instructed me in the art of meat. He was patient and considerate to my young housewife self, showed me how to look for marbling, described what to do with the cheap cuts, which to curry and which to Swiss. Only plain white butcher paper would do. There were no disguising dyes, no plastic wrap or styrofoam trays. He told me lean was best for meatballs, half pork, half beef, with burgers on the hibachi. A little fat was good. His round, clean-shaven face was pink above the display case. We were good together. Sexy poem, isn't it? I lived on 14th and Alder in an old house that was torn down immediately after, the week after we left it. That was there, and so I could walk easily around there. I'm going to sort of check the time and try and keep track, okay? This book is arranged what I think is a kind of arc of life. It starts with memories and younger things, and then moves on to the present and maybe facing the future. I dedicated it to my mother, and I was happy it came out in December. And my mother died at the age of 100 in February this year, so I was glad she saw it. She was happy with it. Okay, here we go. This next poem is 6 on 6. Does anybody have any idea what that means? You have to be older, maybe. But it was what they called girls' basketball when I was in high school. When you had to have 3 of your team on one side, 3 on the other, and then the other team was 3 and 3. So it was 6 on 6, and the girls were not supposed to exert themselves by running across the whole. At 13, I was tall and could handle a basketball. We played girls' rules, half court. 6-on-6, they called it. Every game, I gave it my all. Dribbled twice, passed, ran, blocked, got the ball back, pushed it hard and high into the basket, yes. After the last game of the season, I walked with Bob and Robert to George's Market for ice cream. You were a High Point girl, they said, with obvious admiration. Next year at 14, half a court was not enough. I chose art club and school newspaper. My basketball career was over. And yet I remember with satisfaction the year I was High Point girl. All true. You know, you couldn't even dribble it except bump, bump, and then you had to pass it. Moving on now to a little more advanced age, the piercing. Today I chose pearls and remembered my friend Etta, who pierced my ears with an ice cube for an anesthetic and a sewing needle for an instrument. We weren't girls. I was 30 and Etta only slightly younger. A stay-at-home mother, I had a hunger for experience in some larger world, was restless, practicing my life without an audience. Why putting holes in my ears would make a difference is not entirely clear, but there were other things I did as well that year. I won't tell about them here. I'll just say I liked the shiny rings she slid into my bloody lobes and that I wore them sparkling on the train when I took the children and fled west that summer, 1969. So long ago, yet consequence continues, while random flights, that is, of memory, still entertain. And related to that train trip that I mentioned, I had she pierced my ears, and then 2 weeks later I went on the train with my children to go from Michigan to Oregon. And so I kept dabbing alcohol on my ears all the way across the country, if you know, you do that. And so on. But I went because it felt like a crazy year in 1969. If you remember, it was a crazy year. And not only war and things like that, and it was also Charles Manson. It was also, there was a serial killer in Michigan and whatnot. And my husband didn't want to come west that summer, so I saw an ad that you could get if you had one adult ticket, children 5 and under were free. So I bought one ticket for myself, and I had 3 children who were 5 and under. And we took the train to Oregon, and I was exhausted. So one of the things we did, we had about 4 hours in the Chicago station, and it was to go and take pictures, you know, on a booth where you get 4 little pictures on a strip. So I found that, and I have that strip. I see the photo booth. I see your faces waiting for the train, Chicago station. You were 5 and under, all 3 of you, and thus your tickets free, though it cost more than money, loss of sleep, the worry of 2 hands for 3 young children. The ride across the country wasn't bad, though one of you threw up. The baby's nosebleed finished off my last clean blouse, and aged porters and waiters glared to see us coming to the dining car. You spilled your chocolate milk through several tablecloths, mishaps regular as the train itself was not, taking an extra night in Cheyenne, where we traipsed through that western city in vague search of toys to eke out patience. I was crazy to undertake a trip like that alone, but not alone, of course, with 3 young kids. It was a year I always will remember, the world in chaos, 1969. I somehow thought that I could keep you safe by taking that slow train back home. And look how happy we all are in these 4 shots inside the photo booth that afternoon. You can't see the crumpled woman with DTs on the soiled bench in that aged marble station, restored by now, I'm sure, the place, I mean. The woman would have slipped away by now. Nor do we see the hoodlums at the door, nor hear the traffic on the street outside that screeched and roared. 2 hands for 3 again kept me inside to wait. This picture cannot show remembered smells, the bathroom stalls reeking of years of pee and cigarettes, hot dogs steaming in their greasy bath, the smell of sweating people in that room. Instead, it shows my face relaxed and calm. I was so young, my hair so black back then, and all of you, my puppy pack, each rising to this occasion, making your funny faces. I think we got 4 for $1 in that booth, or maybe less than that. So cheap a celebration of what we did that summer. The wars went on, and evil things occurred, the world as usual. A pinball game without restraint. We all survived. How I loved, still love, your faces, your spirits buoyant in any circumstance. My kids were always really good for traveling. I don't know why, but we drove across the country about 30 times when we lived in Michigan. If you count back and forth. And after a while, as they got a little older, I would say, if you don't fight, I'll take you to the French restaurant in East Lansing, the Baker's Banquet. And so when something sounded like it was getting hot in the back seat, where they were sitting, 3 of them and 2 dogs on the floor, I would say, Baker's Banquet. And it would usually take care of it. As we get older, sometimes our eyes get dry and we start, we should invest in a company that makes Systane. I guess I see people putting drops in their eyes and I do it too. Her regret. Dry eyes, dry eyes. If only she had known, she would have saved some of her young woman tears in long past years for these old dry eyes, now that she no longer cries. And the title was Her Regret. I don't have too many regrets. I think I missed one here. Okay. Just going back a little bit, what about those ancestors? And the first part is just one word on a line, and then the rest of it is long lines. So if you can picture, dear ancestors, thank you for surviving. Sincerely, your grateful descendant. What if you could fish for your ancestors in heaven, casting far into the night sky when you can't sleep, snagging great-great-grandma and reeling her in to tell you stories till 6 a.m.? What if your ancestors are still watching you and see everything you do? Everything. Would you get sassy and say, you did it too? Or just say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir? What if they never really died, but just piled up in the back seat of your car telling you how to drive, telling you where to drive, drinking scotch from a silver flask and demanding ice cream? What if you had no ancestors, just appeared like a lonely bubble in a pond of tar? Pop. Maybe your ancestors were jellyfish or one-celled creatures without hairdos or mouths or underwear. Whoever they were, invite them for a seance, a barbecue, a tete-a-tete, or a chin-to-chin. And if they come, celebrate the nose you all share, your laugh, the color of your hair. You might be an ancestor someday, maybe already are. Time goes by. Here, I'll just... this is a different section. The title is Pilgrimage, and it's the time of year I love to go to Malheur and cross the mountains. And just today I was thinking, I need to go across the mountains. It's that time when it feels right, and the birds are out in Malheur and the flowers and so on. Pilgrimage. How many of you go to Malheur? Sometimes, often, you know, and there's one reference here. I don't know. Do you know what the Great Mar is? It's a volcano thing, and it's got a pool down in the bottom of it that's been there for thousands of years. And it's at Diamond Craters.
Diamond Craters, yeah.
Pilgrimage. Malheur, Steens, Alvord Desert. In May, we go to the desert to clean the ashes from our hearts. The roughness of desert air is palpable. Palpable. I said something different here. Palpable. Okay. Is palatable, like cracked wheat or burnt sugar. There's grit in the wind and the sound of snipe winnowing in the grass. We open ourselves to clear sky and scour darkness from our thoughts. We inhale and exhale slowly. The mule deer march by in elegant processional. Their radar ears turn this way and that. Above the lake, white pelicans spiral up and down, a double helix, a ballet about life and death. The spring flowers of the desert glow with insane colors, bright yellow buckwheat, blue bensum, orange paintbrush. Ascending the red slopes of Diamond Craters, we stare into the Great Mar, which has been holding its basin of blue water for 6,000 years, as if waiting for God to come down and drink here. Wanting clean curves and distances, abstract shapes and long views. For a while we leave behind what is too generous, too easy. We go to the desert so we can return home to blurred edges and live again among forests, pastures, soft grasses. And now I'm going to sort of jump to the end. Or no, I'll just read a couple of poems. I can find them. About time. As I said, it's an arc of time, and this one is when I retired, getting old, so on. And you think about, and since my mother died, I feel like there's no longer that curtain between me and the stars and the darkness. I expect the final moment of my life to last forever, just as the first one has. I expect to meet my maker, who will look like my grandfather smoking a cigar, my grandmother braiding her hair before bedtime, a newborn infant, or a native prairie in the American Midwest. I expect a tremendous wind to sweep across the landscape and leave nothing standing but the blackberry thicket at the bottom of my property. I expect time and tide will wait for a respectful moment and then rush on. I expect in 150 years no one now walking on the earth will be alive, and yet we will all still be here. I expect a ladder made of blue silk ribbons will fall from the sky and I will slowly ascend to somewhere. I expect my spirit to go on watching over all of you, being entertained and dismayed yet hopeful. I expect time is an illusion created by memory. I expect time to come to a stop when I die. The earth will disappear and rain will not know where to fall. A little self-centered there, right? So I think I get one more. One more? Okay. Well, this is the last poem, and it really is a retirement poem. Corner office. We know the corner office is the epitome of success, right? My husband and I live in the country, and we have 20 acres of woods and birds and whatnot, and this is what you see there. Corner office. Executive of my own retirement, I have a corner office with windows facing north and west. Bonus, adjacent kitchen. Outside, the road is sheeted with ice, no way to town. The sky is the color of pencil marks badly erased on newsprint. Brown hairs on the barbed wire fence show where hungry deer passed through last night. The old abandoned pump house leans like a drunk, supported by barren brambles of a wild rose bush. As ice melts, fog rises, the pasture barely visible past the driveway. The day dissolves like sugar in a glass of water. Sometimes memory is like that. Outside at the bird feeder, sparrows give way to scrub jays. I remember mornings I rose, drove to work, came home tired at night. Day by day, the road, the job, the place, it all became familiar. I straighten my desk, read mail, and look out the window, make heartfelt resolutions for a new year. There's much to be done. Thank you.